Hey guys, so I promised you that I would put together some tutorials. Lots of you requested that I start to add more kind of tutorials and tips and tricks for inversions and arm balances onto my feed. So here I am. First thing I want to talk about, I thought this month I'm going to talk about Pincha Mayurasana, so your forearm balance. I'm going to start right from the very beginning. So one of the biggest things that I see for people when they are starting to arm balance, certainly in forearm balance, it's actually one of the hardest inversions just because of the amount of mobility and strength and stability it requires from the shoulder girdle. In a way, handstand's easier in terms of that, but obviously harder to balance because there's less of a surface covered with the hands to the forearms. So one thing that's really, really important that you check is the mobility that you have available from the elbow down. So for some people, their range of motion might not be able to bring, if without using their shoulder from the elbow, might not be able to bring the hand all the way to the floor. So the most important thing is that you check this first, because this is going to determine what your alignment will be. So if you think about it, without borrowing from my shoulder, I've got quite a big range of motion. I can kind of get my thumb down to the floor. However, some people might come round about here. And so you can imagine if I was trying to get my hand to the floor but unable to, what I would then need to do is borrow from the joint above, which means that I would be then internally rotating into my shoulder. This is why, for any yoga teachers out there, this is why often you'll find people kind of crunched up here, same in the down dog, they're having to borrow from their shoulders to get their hands down to the floor. So one of our pet hates, certainly on the teacher training, is seeing people, you know, that tweak that people do with the foot, bringing the arms out. It's a really bad thing to do because you don't know what's going on within the joints within the body. So when it comes to forearm balance, if getting your forearms down and your hands flat to the floor is really, really tricky without then doing this to the shoulders, then you need to look at your alignment and how can you make this more accessible. So for a lot of people, what I'll teach is just to either bring the hands into a prayer or to bring the hands into like a basket stance with the hands. The downside of that is obviously once you're up, you don't have your fingers to aid your balance. If you have the mobility to bring your hands down comfortably without then internally rotating and crunching into your shoulders, then wherever possible, you want to have your elbows underneath the shoulders, and the forearms can either be in line with the elbows or the thumbs will come together. Some of the key points that I want you to explore when you're working on your pincha is keeping the collarbones broad. So when you're coming up into your dolphin, keeping the collarbones broad and the connection of the back body on. The next thing, which is really key, and I'll share some tips as we go along, and some exercises that will help you, is how can I keep my side body long? So trying to create space from the armpit to the hip. I cue this a lot in classes. So wherever you are, how can you lift your hips higher and create this space and length? Your lats play a key part in creating this space. If you're really tight in the lats, I'm going to share some lat exercises with you as well. So this is something to think about. I'm just going to come into dolphin and show you what I mean. So depending on your mobility, elbows underneath the shoulders, forearms to the floor, hands flat. I like to use my thumbs together, but again, it's going to depend on the breadth of your shoulders how that will work. And then lift up into a dolphin. And just for a moment, see how it feels, relax the head. Noticing all instantly you're kind of crunching down to the floor. How can you make your side body long? So lifting your sit bones up and growing from the armpit to the hips. You can bend your knees, okay? You're really tight in the hamstrings, bend your knees. So just have a go with your dolphin. This is one of the best strength building exercises you can do. Just see how that feels. Exploring the mobility of the shoulders. Get my top off, it's getting in the way. So as we come into dolphin, your tips and your thinking points are shoulders are directly over the elbows. Shoulder over elbow. Side body long. So you want to lift your hips up. Keep the head neutral with your gaze just between the elbows. And you walk the feet in as closely as they'll go to the elbows without you kind of collapsing onto your head, which I see a lot. From there, you can lift a leg. What I see then is people kind of bending the leg and crunching in and doing all kinds of funny stuff. So what you want to do is keep the leg really active and just play with a couple of hops, not worrying about getting the feet together, but instead really trying to keep both feet alive, legs super active, pressing into the ground. And then you come and you relax and you'll try the other leg. So over the next couple of weeks I'm going to show lots of different exercises to build strength, stability, different ways to come in, how to fall, and anything else I can think of. If there's anything you want me to share specifically, drop me a message. Cool. Thanks guys, I'll speak to you soon.